And today our topic is, when does the week begin? Those who have never learned the facts of calendar history have built an entire belief structure on a faulty foundation. The assumption that weeks have cycled continuously and without interruption ever since creation. Genesis 1 correctly reveals that two kinds of days make up the biblical week, 6 working days followed by a Sabbath. And then we have Ezekiel 46:1, Leviticus 23, Isaiah 66, and they identify that there are 3 kinds of days that make up a biblical month: new moon days, work days, and Sabbaths. So the days in the biblical week did not have names such as Monday, Tuesday, etc. The days in the biblical week were numbered as first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, and seventh day, which was known as the Sabbath. And that's all found in Exodus 16 and Exodus 20 and John 2. Both the Gregorian and biblical calendar weeks consist of 7 days. In ancient times, some cultures have had weeks which contain differing numbers of days, and some cultures still use these today. Even though the number of days in a week is equal to both calendars, in both calendars, the day numbers might vary. And even over here on the right of the screen, you'll see that some of the European calendars begin on Monday. And you might notice that puts Sunday as the 7th day of the week. Okay.
Christians who worship on Sunday base this practice on the belief that Yeshua arose from the tomb on Sunday. Jews and Christians who worship on Saturday do so because it is the 7th day of the week. Both parties base their belief and thus their practice on an assumption. The assumption is that because the progression of days was not changed at the time the Julian calendar transitioned to the Gregorian, the modern week is identical to the biblical week. Therefore, the logical conclusion is that Saturday is indeed the Bible Sabbath and Sunday is the day on which Yeshua arose from the grave. The facts of the Julian calendar itself, however, prove this assumption is false. Julian calendar established. The calendar of the Roman Republic was based on lunar phases. Pagan Roman priests called pontiffs were responsible for regulating the calendar. By the time of Julius Caesar, months on the Roman calendar were completely out of alignment with the seasons. Julius Caesar exercised his right as Pontificus Maximus, high priest, and reformed what had become a cumbersome and inaccurate calendar.
So in 45 BC, Julius Caesar appointed Sosigenes, an Alexandrian astronomer, to design and reform the Roman Republic calendar. They decided to abandon the lunar calendar altogether. The new Julian calendar ignored new moon days and instituted a calendar that was solar only, with the days of the week designated by letters A through H, and that is 8 days.
The Julian calendar week of 45 BC did not look like the Julian week when Pope Gregory VIII modified it, and thus did not look like the modern Gregorian week of today. This is the first assumption made by both Jews and Christians, regardless of the day on which they worship. The Julian calendar, like the calendar of the Republic before it, originally had an 8-day cycle.
And this is a picture of the calendar here on the right of a Roman calendar, and you'll see letters A through H. So the decline of the 8-day Roman week and the pagan role of Mithraism played a significant part in restructuring the Julian week. It seems as if some spiritual genius, having control over the pagan world, had so ordered things that the heathen planetary week should be introduced just at the right time for the most popular sun cult of all ages to come along and exalt the day of the sun as a day above and more sacred than all the rest. Surely this was not accidental. And that's from R.L. Odom's Sunday and Roman Paganism. I will be leaving all these links below for you to look up for yourself. But over here on the right is a stone picture of a Roman calendar, a Julian calendar, and it shows an example of an 8-day week.
The Julian week began a centuries-long evolutionary process that ended in the week as it is known today. The original 7-day planetary week is the final piece of the puzzle, proving Saturday is not the Bible Sabbath, nor Sunday the first day of the biblical week. This transformation took several hundred years.
The immense significance of this for Christians is found in the fact that Sunday cannot be the day on which Yeshua rose from the dead, because Sunday did not even exist on a Julian calendar of Messiah's day. That's the time when he was alive. So nor can Saturday be the biblical seventh-day Sabbath, because the pagan planetary week originally began on a Saturday. It was not a seventh day of the week.
Saturn, or De Saturni, the day of Saturn, was the very first day of the week, not the seventh. As the god of agriculture, he can be seen in this preeminent position of importance, holding his symbol, a sickle. Next, on the second day of the pagan planetary week, is seen the sun god with rays of light emanating from his head. Sunday was originally the second day of the planetary week and was known as Dies Solis.
And this is an official Roman calendar as found in a mosaic tile in the wall of the Roman bathhouse called Trajan's Bath, and that was built in 104 A.D. So here you'll find Saturday was the first day of the pagan week. So when the use of the Julian calendar with its recently adopted pagan planetary week spread into northern Europe, the names of the days, Dies Martis, or that's like Mars, through Dies Veneris, which is Venus. Okay, so the days from Mars to Venus were replaced by Teutonic gods. Mars' day became Twiz Day or Tuesday. Mercury's day became Woden's day, Wednesday. Jupiter's day became Thor's day or Thursday, and Venus' day became Frigga's day or Friday. The influence of the pagan astrological day names is still seen today. Latin-based languages such as Spanish retain astrological names for Monday through Friday, with the Christian influence being seen in their words for Sunday, like Domingo or Lord's Day, and Saturday, Sabbato or Sabbath. So over here you'll see an artist drawing of the pagan days of the week and the gods that they represent.
The fact that both the Julian calendar and the pagan planetary week have been accepted for use by Christians reveals an amalgamation of Christianity with paganism, of which the Apostle Paul warned when he wrote in 2 Thessalonians 2:7-11, "For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Master shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause Yahweh shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believeth not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness."
The planetary week, like the Julian calendar that adopted it, is irreparably pagan. Historical facts reveal that neither the biblical Sabbath nor the biblical first day can be found using the modern calendar. It is important to worship on a specific day. If it is important to worship on a specific day, then it is also important to know which calendar to use and when the change in calendation occurred. It must always be remembered that when one worships reveals whom one worships, the Elohim of creation or the God of this world. that is the leader of rebellion against the Creator. Each deity has his or own calendar by which to be worshipped. Both Saturday and Sunday, as well as Friday, are pagan worship days. Which calendar will you use to establish your worship day?
The 8-day cycle of the Julian calendar was in use at the time of Messiah. However, the Israelites would not have kept the 7th-day Sabbath on the 8th-day weekly cycle of the Julian calendar. Even when the Julian week shortened to 7 days, it still did not conform to the weekly cycle of the biblical week, nor did it resemble the modern week in use today. Philo, a contemporary of Messiah. The writings of Philo are very important for establishing Judean practice and belief both before and during the Messiah's time here on earth. Philo lived from approximately 20 BC until about 50 AD. Thus, his lifetime spanned not only the years prior to the Messiah's birth, but also the years following his resurrection, not to mention the years in between. Evidence reveals that Philo's beliefs were representative of those of Judaism during that period of time. The following excerpts are from Philo's writings, explaining the 7-day week and the Sabbath on the lunar cycle. Philo, in the Special Laws 178, writes, "There is one principle of reason by which the moon waxes and wanes in equal intervals, both as it increases and diminishes in illumination, the 7 lambs, because it receives the perfect shapes in periods of 7 days, the half moon in the first 7-day period after its conjunction with the sun, full moon in the second, and when it makes its return again, the first is to half moon, then it ceases at its conjunction with the sun. Again, the periodical changes of the moon take place according to the number 7, that star having the greatest sympathy with the things on earth, and the changes which the moon works in the air, it perfects chiefly in accordance with its own configurations on each 7th day. At all events, all mortal things, as I have said before, drawing their more divine nature from the heaven, are moved in a manner which tends to their preservation in accordance with this number 7. Accordingly, on the 7th day, Elohim caused to rest from all his works which he had made."
Modern Sabbatarians insist that Saturday is the Sabbath of the Bible because they believe that the 7-day week has cycled without interruption ever since creation. And that's how I was taught too in church. And one reason for this belief is the fact that when the Julian calendar changed to the Gregorian calendar in 1582, no days of the week were lost. And you'll see up here, the Thursday the 4th, and then it picked up the next day on a Friday. So on the Julian calendar was followed by Friday, October 15th, on the new Gregorian calendar, by removing 10 days. Therefore, it is claimed because no days were lost when the calendars transitioned from Julian to Gregorian, the modern week is identical to the biblical week. However, nothing could be further from the truth. What happened to the other 3 days that are missing there? Also, I've seen this posted by Sabbath keepers, which I used to be a Saturday Sabbath keeper too, and I love my brothers and sisters. But the U.S. Naval Observatory will say the sequence of the days of the week have not been altered in the last 2,000 years. Well, if you go back to the time of the Saturday being the change to the 7th and Sunday to the 1st, that is about 2,000 years. But those days are not on the Creator's calendar, are they? 7 days a week. The modern week is a continuous weekly cycle on the Roman Gregorian calendar, but not to the original calendar of creation. Anciently, all weekly cycles restarted at the new moon. All nations, all nationalities, all cultures. And this is a quote from the Universal Jewish Encyclopedia. The new moon is still, and the Sabbath originally was dependent upon the lunar cycle. And Jewish writings do prove the lunar Sabbath to be true, and we have done a video with that title. Here's another Jewish quote about how they have changed the calendar.
A continuous 7-day cycle that runs throughout history, paying no attention whatsoever to the moon and its phases, is a distinctively Jewish invention. Moreover, the dissociation of the 7-day week from nature has been one of the most significant contributions of Judaism to civilization. It facilitated the establishment of what Lewis Mumford identified as mechanical periodicity, thus essentially increasing the distance between human beings and nature. Quasi-weeks, weeks whose cycle restarts with the new moon, and continuously cycling weeks actually represent two fundamentally distinct modes of temporal organization of human life, the former involving partial adaptation to nature, and the latter stressing total emancipation from it. The invention of the continuous week was therefore one of the most significant breakthroughs in human beings' attempt to break away from being prisoners of nature and create a social world of their own.
So in Ezekiel 46:1 says there are three kinds of days. There's a new moon day, we said this before, and a weekday and a Sabbath. So a new moon day, you can see on this sample calendar, is day 1 beginning the month. And it's impossible for the Creator's weeks to have cycled without end since creation for the mere fact that there are three kinds of days, and not just two, as all the world has wandered after the beast, believing. So new moon day starts a month, and you have 6 working days and a Sabbath. 6 working days and a Sabbath. And then at the beginning of the next new month is new moon day. Yes, and this is, we did this also, you can look this YouTube up, 3 types of days in Scripture. Cycling weeks cannot remain unbroken for 6,000 years, 6 months, or even 6 weeks, for the very reason that the new moon day exists as a third kind of day. It breaks a cycle of work days and Sabbaths every 29 or 30 days of the lunar month. For the new moon is the hallmark and beacon of Jehovah's appointed times of Mount Zion. Satan has enforced the Roman Gregorian calendar on the world. Months begin without the moon. Weeks are in a continuous cycle. The days of the week are named after pagan gods. And Daniel 7:25 says,
And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws.
As Messiah Yeshua quoted from the book of Isaiah, saying, Wherefore, Jehovah said, for as much as these people draw near me with their mouth, and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their hearts far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the precept of men. It is better to follow Jehovah than man. It is better to follow Jehovah's word than any man's word, and it is better to follow Jehovah's calendar than any man-made calendar. So, and this is the calendar in the heavens, and we want to remind you, don't forget to go to our website, lunarsabbathday.com, to access materials directly related to today's topic about the week. There's a lot of information there. So thank you for listening in today, and we'll be back next week, Yah willing.